better to be 100% out than 99% out.
That's great.
Because if you're 99% out of something, you can always fall back into it. But if you're 100% out, it's easy.
Welcome to the Next Level Income Show, where it's our goal to take your income, your investments, and your life to the next level. I'm your host, Chris Larson. If you haven't yet, get a copy of our book for free at our website, nextlevelincome.com. That's www.nextlevelincome.com. Just click on the book link, and I'll even send you a copy if you put your address in. On today's show, we have my friend Craig Ballantyne returning to talk about his fourth book, The Dark Side of Discipline, and he's going to tell you how you can sign up early to get a copy before it's released here next month. Craig is known as the world's most disciplined man. He's the author of the Perfect Day Formula as well as the Perfect Week Formula. He was also the creator of Turbulence Training fitness system and owns earlytorise.com. And today he's going to share some of his tools, his tricks, his tips that will help you become more disciplined, but more importantly, help you achieve the life of your dreams. Craig, welcome back to the show.
Hey, this is going to be a lot of fun, Chris. Great to be here.
Yeah, it's always good to have you. This is like an annual occurrence. And for those of you listening that don't know this, actually, Daniel Woodrum, your co-author on your new book, he didn't realize you were the first guest on the Next Level Income Show, Craig, way back in the show aired in 2019, but we recorded that in November of 2018, if you can believe it.
November 2018?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
I know. It's been a while, and we're about 250 episodes in, man. So it's great to have you back. And I can't even tell you how many books I have in front of me that you've written, and some of your coaching clients have written. And I'm really excited to have you on because you're going to be talking about your new book today. But I'd love for you to share a little bit about your background, Craig. And obviously we'll talk a little bit about how we've come to know each other over the years as well.
Yeah, so I grew up in Canada, and as I joke about in the book, playing hockey and drinking beer and playing hockey, it didn't matter which one. And I wanted to be a strength and conditioning coach in the National Hockey League, and ended up being a personal trainer to wealthy people in Toronto, ended up writing for Men's Health magazine, built an online fitness business, and then said, I'd rather teach high performers like Chris Larson and all my other coaching clients how to get more done and make more money and step away from the fitness industry. So I did that a couple years before you started the podcast. I started probably 2016 hardcore into helping other entrepreneurs, and it's been that way. And we've had so many live events, and you come out to a lot of them, and it's really cool to see the crossover between guys are coming to my events, like Russ and Joey from Wealth Without Wall Street, and Sharon, and you're going to events with them, and it's really just all about connecting high performers and opportunities and solving the same problems that are common among most of them.
Yeah, I mean, Craig, as you like to say, your network is your net worth, and it really is true. And as you get into these, realms, the high performers tend to congregate, for multiple reasons. I was just at Vic Raya's event last week that one of my businesses helped sponsor, and even Vic's coming out with a book. So you helped me write my book.
Well, Vic and I co-wrote the Perfect Week Formula for doctors, but he might have another one coming out. But he rewrote that one, and it's something I'm thinking of doing with some other folks for different industries because it's been really helpful for him.
Yeah. No. And so people know. I mean, some people know this story, Craig, but I started following you with Early to Rise. And I mean, we're now talking, geez, it's been well over 10 years. I think I started reading that when Mark Ford was the owner. And I know you've told this story before, but if you don't mind, I think this is so important to what you do as we get into the nitty gritty of, kind of discipline and some of the methods that your coaching clients use. But do you mind sharing the story about how you came to own Early to Rise?
Yeah, I love telling this story. And so way back in 2006 was a really pivotal year for me. So I had severe anxiety attacks starting on January 1st because I was living a stupid life. I was really hungover from the night before, and that translated in, with a bunch of other problems into this anxiety attack on January 1st. Went to the hospital. They told me nothing was really wrong with me, and I realized I got to get my act together. So I hired my first business coach, and on the very first call in March of 2006, right before the call, I was like, oh man, I hope I don't have an anxiety attack on this call and have to just get up and walk away. But I didn't. And the very first question on the very first call, my coach said to me, Craig, what do you want your business to look like in 5 years from now? And at the time I was just selling fitness programs online and still doing a little bit of personal training. And I said, I want to own a business like this website, Early to Rise. And everybody in 2006 who was successful knew of Early to Rise. It was like the first
Yeah.
online health and wealth and success newsletter. It talked about real estate investment and copywriting and, getting healthy. And it had hundreds of thousands of subscribers, which in 2006 is a lot of people on the internet. And he said to me, I know that business, but you got to, improve your writing, your speaking, your coaching, your network, your leadership, all these things. And so I set myself down on that path. And years later, I met another guy who knew Mark Ford, and I shared with this other guy, Matt Smith, my goal of owning Early to Rise. And, in 2011, they were at an event together. And the owner of Early to Rise, this guy, Mark Ford, said, I'm done. I've written 2,000 essays for Early to Rise. I got nothing else to say. And then my friend texted me right away and said, Hey, would you love to own Early to Rise? And I said, Yeah. And so we went and negotiated the deal with Mark Ford down at his cigar bar in Delray Beach. And it was
Yeah.
5 years, 3 months, and 17 days after I originally said that on my first call that I bought the business in about July of 2011. And it was pretty cool. And it's a great story. And it's not much different than the story of me finding my wife on the timeline I talk about in Perfect Day
Yeah.
Formula and a few other things that I've accomplished in my life. When you have that clear North Star, when you have the clear North Star, it's a straight line to success. You can say no to detours and so on and so forth. And a lot of people are missing this.
Yeah.
And then they go and they chase a bunch of other short term goals, whether it's a discipline challenge or whether it's starting another side hustle or whatever. And they just bounce around like a ping pong ball because
Yeah.
there is no North Star. And that really breaks my
Yeah.
heart.
No, and it's something that I've done this exercise with you. We just did it at one of your events here at the beginning of the year. And I think, it's something that we do with our coaching clients. And I saw it when we moved into this house. I went through this process with Tony Robbins when I was 25 years old. And lo and behold, 15 years later, I look back and I was like, oh my gosh, like so much of what I wrote down of what I wanted came true. And it wasn't and actually, Craig, I didn't reference those notes, over and over again. So why is it so important to have that
Well,
clear
let me
vision,
just say
that
something
north?
on that.
Yeah,
Sorry to
please.
interrupt you on that.
No,
It's
please.
so cool. This is so
Yeah,
cool in that a lot of people come to my events and they do the exercise, the vision
yeah,
exercise and the worksheets, and then they go home. And even Sharon Srivatsa did this. And he
yeah,
said, like 11 months later, I pulled the binder off the shelf. I hadn't looked at it in 11 months.
yeah,
And I was like, oh man, I totally forgot about this. And he looked at what he had said he wanted to accomplish. And it was either he had already accomplished it or he was just about to. And I hear
yeah,
that all the time from people. Yeah, like set aside those notes, totally forgot, found them. And oh my gosh, I said I wanted to do this in 3 years. I did it in 1 year. I said I wanted to do it in 12 months. We did it in 6 months. It's crazy. It's crazy. It's so cool.
yeah. Now, this kind of around that same time, 2006, that you had that call, and maybe a little bit earlier, there was a book that was really popular. It was called The Secret, and it was all
Oh
about
yeah.
visualization and figuring out what you wanted. And this sounds a lot like that, but where does that fall short, Craig, versus just saying, "Hey, I want this, and I'm gonna visualize this. I'm just gonna sit here and manifest it in my head." Where does that fall short in today's world?
Yeah. So there's first of all, I want to tell two stories about The Secret, and
Yeah,
um, there's one story in The Secret. I watched the movie where it's really, really cool, and it's very
yeah,
similar to yours. And so
yeah,
John Assaraf is talking,
yeah,
and he's saying, he built this vision board, and he put this house up, and he set it aside, and
yeah,
they moved into this house, and like he was unpacking boxes still like a year later, and he pulls this picture out, and he goes, "Oh my gosh." This vision board, I put this house on my vision board years ago, and now it's the exact house. And I didn't even know when I bought this
yeah.
house. It was so that was really cool.
I remember that
You
in
know,
The Secret. Yeah, it was really, really cool.
and
Yeah,
if that story's true and all of that is true and none of it's puffery, that's really, really awesome. And that's what
yeah,
it's about. Where it falls short is that John did a lot of action to get there. And
yes,
so
yes.
we can't just sit there in the chair. There's another part where there's a guy like, oh, I'm driving around looking for a parking lot, and I just like manifested a parking lot, or not a parking lot. Yeah, I'm looking for a parking space. Okay, that's like a
I remember
coincidence,
that.
bro.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that was
you're like, yeah.
ridiculous.
It's like, okay. I try that. It doesn't work as often as I
No,
would
not as,
like it
as
to.
much as you want.
Yeah,
And so
yeah,
So it's the law of action. It's the law of
Yes.
action attraction is what I call it in my Unstoppable book. So it's not just the law of
Yes.
attraction. Yeah, listen, it's very, very important for you to know what you want in life.
Yeah.
Just like it's very important for a football team to know exactly how far they want to get. You know, if they're being realistic, like, yeah, okay,
Yeah.
last year we were the worst team in the league. This year we want to make the playoffs. Awesome. Great. Or, this year we got out in the first round of the playoffs. Next year, we want to win the Super Bowl. Great. Vision
Yeah.
board. Boom. Now, you can't just do that and not increase your practice. You can't
That's right.
improve your team. You can't expect that result from not doing something. So, there's two quotes that I shared at the last mastermind. I've actually shared them the last couple because they're so powerful. And the one is the title of a book by Marshall Goldsmith, and it is What Got You Here Won't Get You There. What
Yeah.
got you here to where we all are in life won't get you to where you want to go. So if you have done one deal and you want to do 10 deals, well, listen, the information that got you to do your first deal, kind of okay, is not going to get you the skill set to do 10 deals where you have to be really good. So there's, up leveling and all that sort of stuff. And then the second quote is, to get something you've never had, you must do something you've never done. And, same quote, essentially different words. And I don't know who first said it, but I actually found it on Twitter from Jeremy Piven, the guy from
Yeah.
Entourage, funny actor. And so, if you want something you've never had, you must do something you've never done. Totally makes sense. You want biceps and you have never had biceps, well, you got to do something different, And
Yeah.
it's the same with anything in life. And so that
Yeah.
that goes back to the law of action
Yeah.
attraction. Whatever you
Yeah.
want, you've got to do something
Yeah.
different to get it. And this is my fourth book, and I started writing it January 1st of 2024. And I got a rough draft done by March of 2024, but it was crappy and it had
Hmm.
a whole bunch of holes in it. And I had to, in order to finish it, I had to get a co-author, which is something I'd never done, but I was either going to put out a really mediocre book or a great book with my co-author Daniel Woodrum because he filled in some really important pieces. And I wanted to have my best book ever, so we hired an actual mentor, a book writing mentor, a guy named Kerry Oberbrunner, who's awesome. He's
Yeah.
worked with John Maxwell, he's worked with Dan Sullivan, Peter Diamandis, and
Studs. Yeah.
there's the lifestyle investor Justin Donald is one of
Yeah.
his clients as well, and that guy's book has gone crazy. And so we hired him, and he helped us with the name, the subsections, the cover of the book, and just those things alone, let alone what's inside of the book, have already
Yeah.
got way more attention. And they also know how to do Amazon properly, which I didn't even do Amazon properly for my other
Yeah.
books. And so if I want to take my book selling to the next level, I needed to get help like that. Just like
Yeah.
when people who are entrepreneurs want to go to the next level from 1 million to 5 million or 10 million, they come to us.
I love it. And there's a lot in the book, Craig. One of the things it's called The Dark Side of Discipline.
Yeah.
And you talk about doing things that you haven't done if you want to get something you don't have, like when you met your wife Michelle, who's lovely, and now you have three
Yeah.
beautiful children. But one thing I want you to share with the audience, because I think this is a challenge that we have, and I was just sitting with a coaching client at lunch this week, and it's the same stuff comes up over and over again. But I think it's important that we kind of understand what we're talking about. So, like, how would you define discipline?
We define discipline very specifically in the book. And so the way it is, the ultimate definition of discipline is putting a level 10 effort into your level 10 problems. A level
Love
10
that.
effort into level 10
Yeah,
problems. So
yeah,
first, discipline starts with self-reflection. And most people do not start there. What people start with when they think of discipline is they think of, okay, everybody else is doing these hard things. I
yes,
should do the hard things they're doing. So I'm going to join a cold plunge. I'm going to join an online
yeah,
challenge. I'm going to do 100 push-ups in 100 days. None of these actually matter, and none of them actually take you towards your North Star because you haven't even figured out your North Star. So you back
yeah,
up, you figure out your big why, your specific definition of success, and then we ask you this question, which is, what are your 2 to 3 biggest level 10 problems in life?
yeah,
And this is, you don't have to share these with anybody, but take out a piece of paper, sit down, think,
yeah,
do I drink too much? Am I overweight but rich? Am I poor but got six-pack abs, but I want to be wealthier? And I've seen people in every position. In fact, one of the one of the impetus for the books is for years I spoke at Fitness Business Summit. And
Mhm.
for, most people on here will never have heard of this, but it was an event for personal trainers and gym owners to make more money. And I would stand there and my friend Bedros ran this for about 10 years and I spoke at it almost every year. And I would stand there in front of the audience of 500 or 750 personal trainers. And I'd look out and I go, these guys have 8% body fat and
Mhm.
$8 in their bank account. And
Yeah.
they would get 2 or 3 days of sales and marketing from some of the best people around, including Bedros. And then on the breaks, they would go and talk to the other personal trainers about their workouts and nutrition.
Right.
And then they go home and they put all the sales and marketing stuff up on the shelf and they'd apply the nutrition stuff, right? And
Yep.
they'd come
Yeah.
back to the event the next year at 7% body fat with $7 in their bank account. And they're putting a level 10 effort into a level 1 problem.
Yeah.
Going from 8% body fat to 7% body fat changes nothing.
Yeah.
And they were putting a level 1 effort into their level 10 problem of sales and marketing. And
Yeah.
so just think, what's your biggest level 10 problem? Maybe you got one, maybe you got two, maybe you got three.
Yeah.
And then beside that, right, what level of effort am I truly giving solving this problem?
Yep.
And it could also be opportunity. Like, what's your level 10 opportunity? Because I don't want to be all like down, but there's some people on here who like, man, I got this huge opportunity to buy my biggest, multifamily real estate deal. And, I'm trying to find time to work on the financials. Well, you'll never find time. You got to make time.
You
And
got to
you might
make
be
it.
putting a
Yeah.
level 3 effort into a level 10
Yeah.
opportunity. And it's not until you put a level 10 effort into it that you're going to have your breakthroughs. So that's our ultimate level of discipline, which is level 10 effort into level 10 problem. Everything else is just entertainment.
I love that. And that's so gold. Like if you get nothing else from this podcast today and you're listening, write that down, stop the podcast, come back, listen to this, bookmark it, and do what Craig said. Write down your three biggest problems. Say, hey, how much time am I spending on this? And then see if they're congruent. If it's a level 10 problem, and Craig, you have helped me with this multiple times over the years. I remember coming to you and said, I think I'm gonna do 75 hard. And you said, why? He's like, dude, you're in great shape. He's like, why do you need to do that? Is that really what problem are you trying to solve with that? And I remember stepping back and thinking, yeah, it's kind of silly. Like I'm I'm doing this thing that's really it's really just, because it kind of floated across my desk or across my
Yeah.
social media feed.
And it's funny, in the book, I say the exact same thing.
Yeah.
After I introduce this concept and take them
Yeah.
through the exact exercise, I say, if you stop reading the book right now, I will have changed your life. I don't want you to stop reading the book right now. Because honestly, the
Yeah.
book it's my shortest book by probably 50 pages. So it's a 100
Yeah.
page book. Most of my other books are 40,000 words, 150 pages. This one's 25,000 words, 100 pages. You can read this in about 90 minutes.
Oh yeah.
And
I
I
read
wanted
I
to
read
keep it as
almost
tight as
all of it in one
possible.
morning. Yeah. It was fantastic. So
Yeah, and that was the
yeah.
point of it because I know that
Yeah.
like most people don't even open the book, and but we got to hook them in really fast, and we tried so hard on that,
Yeah.
and kept it as short as possible so that people could take the impact of it.
Yeah, you've stopped cussing, you've stopped drinking alcohol. In the
Every
book,
bad habit, yeah,
yeah,
you
you,
name
you
it.
have, yeah,
I never
and you've
smoked weed
earned
because I never knew how to do it.
there.
Like I, like I tried one time in college, and I was the
Yeah.
guy who like coughed his lungs out for 6 weeks. So that was like I've never had that bad habit, but everything else I've had and have
What
built systems to overcome it.
I love it, and it's a good thing there weren't gummies back then because those are way
Right,
easier than
exactly.
smoking. Yeah, I never, growing up with a smoker in the house, I never liked like smoke of any kind. But you talk about in the book like, hey, how do you stop watching porn? For me, the issue that I face, and I use your tips and tricks, was like surfing social media, and it's like I love to read like X. I never used X, and I caught myself about a month ago, and I would in the morning I would flip over to the X app on my iPad because my iPad's different than my cell phone, and I'd be like, oh shoot, I just spent 20 minutes looking at nothing. So, what are some tips that you can give to listeners today? And I know you share these in the book as well for those that are trying to get rid of a bad habit, whether it's drinking too much or watching porn or surfing social media or being addicted. Speaking of porn, the news is like news porn.
Yeah.
How do you, what are some simple tricks and tips that you can give to listeners to get rid of that?
So I'll be brutally honest with you. I was addicted to X as well. So
Mm,
there was a couple guys on there who I thought they were just, they were covering everything from new dad stuff
yeah.
to politics, and it was what I
Yeah.
wanted to hear, and also
Yeah.
some investment stuff. And the guy he was just culturally in tune. And I thought I can keep up with a million things just by following this one guy and
Ah,
only
yeah.
reading him. But like you said,
Pretty efficient. Yeah.
there would be times, and this was when we just had our second child, and so it'd be like you feed the baby right at night after bath time, and she falls asleep on your chest, and you're kind of stuck there because you want to make sure she's fully deeply asleep before you put her to bed. And I'd
Yeah.
scroll, and like I remember when you scroll something, you sometimes you just don't blink. And like my eyes, I could feel my eyes like had been like glued open. I'm like, okay. And I also realized that this was making me a little bit angry because there was
Ah,
stuff in there about, they would show like the guy would show like, look what's happening in Philadelphia. And I'd be like,
yeah.
ah, come on, that's got to, on the streets late at night.
Yeah.
And look what's happening
Yeah.
here. And look, and and, and then it got to the point where it was affecting me when I wasn't even reading it.
Wow.
And, my wife and I had a heart to heart about it. And I said, okay, I'm done. And I grew up, because I grew up on a farm in Canada with like nothing to do. And so
Yeah.
I would read the sports pages of the newspaper, and then I'd like read the rest of the newspaper when I was like 10
Yeah.
years old because I had nothing to do. So it's like 40 years almost of me really consuming a lot of news and content. And I just went cold turkey in the summer of 2024. And it was one of the best things I ever did because not just for like the anger side of things, but also it
Yeah.
gave me a lot of time back to focus on reading
Yeah.
books and do meditations and stuff like that. And so there's two ways to quit bad habits, and
Yeah.
we cover them both in the book. And the first one is formulaic, systematic, mechanical.
Yeah.
With here are systems, you're going to create your big why. You're going to
Yeah.
have your specific definition of success. You're going to start to eliminate things because, whether you're using an app like Opal, which blocks you from
Yeah.
online, or
Very
whether
cool app.
putting your
Yeah.
phone in another room, or, you just, if you're addicted to potato chips, you're just not going to have chips in the house, etc. And so
That's my
then
dad. That's how I have discipline.
yeah, exactly. And then planning and preparation. Mine was chocolate covered almonds. I just don't keep them in the house because if they're in the house and they can be hidden on me, I will find them. If
Like a
there was a
truffle
game,
pig.
right, right. If there was a game show of
Yeah.
finding chocolate covered almonds, I would find them. Drop me into any city, right? And just like that, Robert Allen, no money down real
Yeah.
estate.
Yeah.
Drop him
Yeah.
into any
Yeah.
city. I can just drop Craig
Good,
Ballantyne
good
in any
pull. Good
city.
pull. That's a good pull. I love that. Yeah.
Yeah. And so there's that and all that mechanical stuff and get accountability to somebody you deeply do not want to disappoint. So specific
Yes.
definitions of success, build your blueprint, eliminate, plan and prepare better, and get accountability. Build that system. And that's the mechanical way of stopping anything. And that's how I stopped swearing. That's how I stopped alcohol. That's how I stopped a lot of stuff. But the news, I didn't I didn't really do anything mechanical other than log out of Twitter. And
Yeah.
because I had no idea what my password was,
Yeah.
all I had to do was just not request a password
Yeah.
upgrade. And so I did that not really through all the mechanics, but through the other way of dropping a bad habit, which is raising your standards.
Yeah.
And when you raise your
Ah,
standards and have a different, like, I'm not the type of man who wastes time on X reading this, or I'm not the type of person who reads the news. And I just changed that overnight and literally changed my habit overnight.
yeah.
And
And you
and for
actually
the next
said
few
that to me
months,
in California. You
yeah,
said, "Oh, I forget what it was, but I said something about a current event," and you go, "I don't know. I don't watch the news." And
yeah.
I just remember thinking, yeah, you're changing your
Or
identity and
or
your
I'm not a
standards.
drinker. I'm
Yeah,
not a
I
drinker.
don't drink. Yeah,
I went from
yeah,
binge drinker to like
yeah,
social drinker, which is a
yeah,
couple of drinks a couple of times a month, then to like rare drinker,
yeah.
once a month, one drink, to just okay, I found this really great quote, which is it's better to be 100% out than 99% out.
That's great.
Because
Yeah,
if you're 99% out of something, you can always fall back into it. But if you're
right.
100% out, it's easy,
Yeah,
right? It's
yeah,
just my standard is no drinking. It's not, well, I usually don't, but tonight I will. And then that could cascade into something else, right?
absolutely.
So just totally out. And the other thing I'll say, like I've had people quit pornography overnight because I said to them, "You're not the type of man who watches pornography. You're an
There
honorable
you
man.
go.
You're a family man. You don't do that stuff."
Yeah.
And in the book, I share a lot of statistics about, you know, alcohol and gambling. Like those are pretty not they're not shady industries, but there are shady sides to it.
Yeah.
And but pornography is completely shady. It's full of
Yeah.
illicit characters, illegal characters, illegal activities. All the people, not all the people, but 99% of the people are messed up. I'm sure. Actually, I should say all the people are.
Yeah.
So many of the women are
It's some,
molested. The
yeah, it's some
suicide rate is really
huge number
high.
of women have been
Yeah.
abused when they're younger, and it's just
and
terrible.
then and then
Yeah.
kids look at it. And so every time
Mm.
you use pornography, you're
Yeah.
supporting every single one of those horrible statistics
Yeah.
every single time. And so it's not, you can't say, oh, it's victimless crime. Like you can say,
Mm.
oh, listen, I
Yeah.
have I have a beer at night, it's a victimless crime. Okay, I'm not going to argue on that.
Yeah.
But you watch pornography, it's not a victimless crime. It's not just you and the computer. Maybe when they get into AI, but right now it's not. And so
Mm.
if you use pornography in any way, you are supporting a very dark side of society. And so you're not the type of man who does that. And there's going to be people who listen to this who I really think will quit pornography overnight. And they might be like rare users on the fence, like, this is all I need to go to the next level. Some people might, like, I had a friend who used to drink 12 beers, 15 beers every Saturday, and then one day just said, I'm never drinking again.
Yeah.
It's rare, but you can do it
Yeah.
when you just change your identity. And
Yeah.
so that's the third part of the book, the identity, the
Yeah.
standards.
Yes,
And
I
you
love
can
that.
really drop a lot of bad habits when you just say, I'm not the type of person who does that.
I love
And
that.
you got
And
to, you believe in it.
well, and yeah, I think, and that's just saying that, Craig, and hearing you say it, it's not as hard as people may think to change that identity and do that. And if you're listening, you can probably think to yourself when you've actually experienced those sorts of things. And look, you're not, as you mentioned at the top of the show here, you're a co-author of the book with Daniel Woodrum. We're gonna have Daniel on the show not too long. Share us a little bit about Daniel. He's been an amazing part of your team. I got to meet him and his wife back. We were actually just texting this morning. I think it was May 1st, 2021, down in Miami at one of your events. And yeah, he's phenomenal, and I've learned a lot from him, and I know he's brought a lot to your team as well.
Yeah. And he has done a lot for me. And so
Yeah.
Daniel first came into my world when I was running the
Yeah.
fitness business, and he came to one of my certification events. And then,
Hmm.
he just got in tune. He's like, this guy, I want this guy to be my mentor. He did a lot of training of people in the fitness industry. Like we were doing a certification for a while. Then he was in my workout videos. We used to do this Toys for Tot charity event in Denver, and he would come
Oh
out
yeah.
to that
Yeah.
event. And then he got involved a little bit in Early to Rise. And then he became a coach in Early to Rise in about 2019 or 2020. He was my first, sub coach. And so
Yeah.
he's been involved in my life for over a decade now.
Yeah.
And I've just, basically, though actually, I ran a test when I was mentoring other fitness professionals inside my turbulence training business. I said, I want a weekly update for you on what you did to, move your goals ahead financially in this. And I said, it has to be in by 5 p.m. Eastern every Tuesday. And if you miss that, I don't ever want to see another one of these again because you've already missed the deadline. And Daniel never missed the deadline. He was always early. And that was like
Yeah.
my first, okay, I trust this guy. So we
Yeah.
actually opened up a couple gyms together in Charleston, South
Yeah.
Carolina, Fit Body
Yeah.
Boot Camps. We sold
Yep.
those, the last one maybe in 2022. And he just proved to me time after time after time that he was reliable and consistent and dependable. And that's the type of person that I am. And that's the type of person I
Yeah.
like to do business with. And then he's really stepped things up in his leadership. Like he's a far better leader than I am
Hmm.
because he's ran all the
Yeah.
teams at the gym and he teaches that. And then
Yeah.
he just brought this presentation about standards, and he's a very disciplined person, very structured
Yes.
person. He's everything that I think a lot of people need in their lives, and he's excelled. The student has become the teacher in a lot
Hmm.
of ways, and that's why I'm happy to have him as co-author of the book. He did so much behind the scenes work on the book, feedback of and advice on my sections. And whenever I said, "Hey, what do you think about doing this for your section?" If you ask the guy for an article in 2 weeks, you get it within 2 hours. And he just
Yeah.
did an amazing job, and it was really awesome. And it's been a great experience working with him. And I think, he's got Southern charm being from down in South Carolina. And
He really does.
he's
Yeah.
got, his three kids are older than my three kids. And so I'm learning a lot of parenting and stuff from him.
Yeah.
And he's just a really, really great role model
Yeah.
and has influenced a lot of our clients to make big changes, especially in the health side of things, because we have that background.
Yeah. No, it's fantastic. Craig, The Dark Side of Discipline, your fourth book. Where is the best place for listeners to get a copy?
Darksideofdiscipline.com, and
Right.
the physical copies will be out in April of 2025. We'll probably have the ebook up on Amazon a little bit earlier, and I'm recording the audiobook in a couple days, so we're going to have that too. So it's going to
Awesome.
be everywhere books are sold, but we're going to have a couple extra little bonuses at darksideofdiscipline.com.
Perfect. We'll have that here in the show notes, Craig. It's always great to see you, my friend. Thanks for joining us today, sharing your wisdom with the audience and sharing your new book as well.
Thanks, Chris.
Hey, Chris here again. I hope you found this episode valuable. Now, I have one more thing to gift you. We have a page for my coaching clients where you can get a free copy of my book, as well as much more from previous guests on the show. Just check out nextlevelincome.com/coaching to get a free copy of my book, audiobook, and much more. I'll send you a copy of my book and cover all the shipping costs as a thank you for listening to the podcast. Also, please like, share, and take just 90 seconds to give us a rating on Apple Podcasts.